This is Autismy Goodness. My name is Tiffany. Most of the people who are going to watch this already know who I am, but figured I'd do introductions for people who don't know who I am, or I'm going to walk through my story with my son and everything, but just wanted to kind of introduce you to whatever this ends up being, whether it be more of a vlog. I anticipate possibly having, guests on, whether it be other parents or caregivers of people with autism, or if it's experts in the field. Just kind of want it to be a safe space for discussions around autism and resources for people who, it's really hard to find resources sometimes, especially when you have a new diagnosis. So wanted this to be just another resource available to people, and people being able to share experiences and not live in the shadows, because why should we? Because, just because our people we care about have autism doesn't mean they're insignificant in any way. That's actually what makes them unique and special. And that's kind of the approach I always had about it, because that's how I actually came up with the name Autismy Goodness. My son, James, who if you've ever met him, he's very bubbly. He's very, very friendly, easygoing, always smiling, sometimes always singing. And he always has this goodness about him. And I feel his autism provides that goodness in him. He's always a constantly sweet person. So that's where I came up with the term Autismy Goodness. Anyway, like I said, wanted to be a safe space. This will evolve. Video's gonna look kind of grainy right now. I don't have like a professional setup now. I'm just kind of testing things out, getting things out there, seeing kind of, the direction I want to take it. So please bear with me while I kind of, look a little disheveled at the beginning. So our story. My son is 18 years old. He graduated from high school in May of 2023. He was on a certificate of completion path, which means he did not get a high school diploma, even though his certificate of completion looks exactly like high school diploma, but at the bottom it says certificate of completion. But anyway, so that pretty much means in the state of Michigan that you qualify for services through the school district, like special needs services through the school district, until you're the age 26. So he's currently going to a post-high school program. It's called Life Skills in our school district, where he is pretty much learning how to be an adult, life skills, learning job skills, learning social skills, learning how to be appropriate socially, kind of all the things that you would just normally just experience as a neurotypical person. He's kind of, getting more extensive training on that stuff through this program. And part of that program, he does have an opportunity to actually go out in the community and actually work at an actual business 2 days out of the week. It's usually 2 days and like maybe a couple hours he's at a thrift store, where he actually is working at the thrift store and actually learning how to do a job and being evaluated on that, in the hopes of, he can build those type of relationships with these business owners, and potentially they would hire him in. It'd be an easy fit for them to hire him because they already know him and know he's capable of. He doesn't have to do a lot of like selling himself, because someone with autism, or his particular autism, isn't easy for him to like go and do an interview, which brings me to his autism. So he, I would say, is like middle of the spectrum. I know there's the classifications of the level 1, level 2, level 3. I always try to say he's somewhere like between a 1 and a 2, which means is that he can do a lot of things independently. He, gets himself up every day. He sets his alarm. He makes his breakfast. He gets all his stuff ready for school. He takes care of all his basic needs, like as far as like hygiene and all that, getting himself cleaned up, getting ready for school dress. I don't do any of that. The sticking point is his communication and cognitive skills. So his communication, he can't have like a full conversation back and forth with you. He struggles with that. So he's very kind of limited on that speech, but he does try to initiate. So the latest thing he's doing is, "Hey mom, what's up?" Or, "Hey dad, how you doing?" Like he tries to initiate conversation, which he didn't really before. I want to say this has been more of a thing in the last year he's really been trying to do. So I think it's something that he's kind of adapting throughout his program. The other thing from like a cognition standpoint is that you have to sometimes explain things to him a little differently for him to be able to understand and grasp them. There's things he can really understand, but if it's a new term, he'll ask, "What does that mean?" Or he just doesn't really get it, but you have to figure out a way to kind of break it down a little bit more for him so he can grasp and understand what you're saying. And he will Google something. So he's not afraid to Google a term. So you gotta have to watch that a little bit sometimes, because sometimes he'll say something. I'm like, do you know what that means? No, I don't know what it means. So I have to like check him, say, you should probably know what that means before you say it again. And then he'll Google it and find, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So anyway, so like I said, 18 years old. So we're in adult transition mode right now. But I will start from the beginning. So I would say journey started probably around he was 2 or 3. I had friends that had children that were similar age, so I kind of saw they're talking, they're just chatting it up, they're just, having full on conversations at 2 and 3, and he wasn't really saying anything. Actually, no, he wasn't saying anything. He had no words. The only thing he would say is mama, maybe dada, and just grunt. So if he needed something, he would throw a cup at you if he wanted something to drink. Yeah, that was his basic communication at about 2 and 3. So we had our doctor's appointment at the pediatrician. I brought that up, and the pediatrician kind of wrote it off as, sometimes they get a little lazy and don't really want to verbalize. He's the only child, so he doesn't have other kids around. So maybe you should try to talk things out and describe actions that you're doing while you're with him so that he can understand speech and be able to be encouraged to speak. So, okay. So went home and decided to try this out. So, we're like, okay, James, I'm putting on your socks now. Okay. And we're going to put on your shoes, and then we're going to go over here and da da da. So I had to kind of verbalize all the actions that I was doing in order to encourage him to speak. Really did not work, was not a thing, more so exhausted me because I had to constantly speak all the time to him. So really didn't work. So eventually I kind of just some research of my own. I figured, well, maybe I need to look into speech therapy. So I was able to find a speech therapist through one of our local hospital networks. I got a referral from a new doctor that we went to, and, we started speech therapy. The initial evaluation for speech therapy was interesting because by this point, I didn't know anything about autism. Everything I heard about autism was relatively negative. Just nothing, didn't even cross my mind that was a thing for him. So we go to the first evaluation for speech therapy. She is basically showing him like a book and saying it's like pictures on a page. And she's asking him to point to the dog, point to the bear, point to this, point to that. And so I'm sitting there and I'm kind of sitting off to the side. So I can't really see what she's showing him. And he's not responding. He's not pointing to anything. He's just kind of looking. So so she does that. And then she does a few other evaluations. And then afterwards, she turns and talks to me. She was like, okay. So she tells me there's something there, because even though he didn't point to the object on the page, his eyes went to the objects on the page as I was talking. So as I was asking him to point to the dog or point to whatever, he just wouldn't point to it. He would look at it, but he wouldn't point to it. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. So she's like, let's start speech therapy twice a week. They also did some evaluation of his fine motor skills. He had issues with fine motor skills, so we also did occupational therapy twice a week. Here's the thing. Insurance doesn't pay for either of that. So, yeah, you have to pay out of pocket. So the only way insurance will pay for speech therapy or occupational therapy is if you had an accident and you previously had speech and then you lost your speech. But not if you were born and you're trying to get your speech. So he would have had to previously had speech. There's some type of traumatic event that happened where he lost those abilities, and then they will pay for it. So I had to pay out of pocket, or, we had to pay out of pocket for it. So we were going twice a week because the appointments were only during the working day. I had to work out something with my employer at the time to say, hey, on Wednesdays and this day, can I come in late so I can take him to speech and occupational therapy in the morning? And then my husband and I would kind of trade off. I took one day and then he took another day. So we did that. So we go to the appointments, and I want to say the first couple appointments, nothing real major. She was like, it's going to be a slow go, but celebrate small wins is always the thing. She always told me, celebrate small wins. So I'm like, okay, great. So we go in, one session in particular, pivotal session. So we go in, and usually the session is pretty much her playing with him and everything, and having a good time, whatever, and he's really engaged, but not really talking. So we go, and then so she's about to do her normal shtick or whatever. So before she gets into it, she turns and looks at me, and she says, okay, are you ready for this? And I said, ready for what? What are you talking about? I was like, the session? She's like, yeah. She's like, you're about to see something different today. Are you ready? And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? So she's on the floor. She's sitting with James on the floor, and they're, playing with a toy. I think it was like a stuffed something or other. And they're playing, and then all of a sudden she takes the toy that he's playing with and puts it behind her back like this and hides it from him. So then he stops. He looks at her, and he's trying to like get the toy from her back. She wouldn't let it go. She just stood there, like this with it behind her back. All of a sudden, he screams like a screech I have never heard before. He jumps and he falls out on the floor. He knocks over the table. He smacks her in the face several times. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, should I? And then she's like, nope, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And then so that happened. It felt like it was an hour, but it was really only like 2 minutes that this happened. And like, I laugh now, but at the time it was not funny. And then finally, after all that production, he finally looks at her and says, toy, please. And she's like, there you go. And hands her. She's like, the sessions are going to be like this from now on. And I said, oh my God. Okay. So, how much longer am I going to be able to do this? Now, keep in mind, after this, I still have to go to work after this. So I have to go through these sessions and then go to work after this. So once we just get into a routine. This is our life now. And then the other thing is that he did not want me to leave the room. So he would cry when I left the room. So we had to get to a point where I could not be in the room. I could observe on a monitor outside, but we worked to where I was not in the room. So we eventually got to that point because the first couple sessions, he would cry for the first 5 minutes when I had left the room, and then he calmed down. So eventually got to a point where he got used to me not being in the room and got comfortable with her. So I want to say we got to maybe a few months of sessions. And then it was one time where at the end of the session, I come into the room and she sits down and she goes over, what she's saying or whatever. And she said, I really think we should evaluate him for autism. So I kind of look at her. I'm like, autism? Why? She's like, well, I don't know. I'm the things that I'm seeing, the more I'm getting to know him, he's really showing some particular traits of autism. And then and I don't even remember what else she said after that in that moment. I just bawled, like destroyed, crying, just bawling my eyes out. Because again, I don't know anything about autism. I'm thinking this is like the worst thing I can hear. It's like you're hearing like he's about to die almost. It's like the most dramatic thing I thought I could hear at that moment. So she said, hey. So then she kind of put her hand on like my hand and said, this doesn't mean anything. This doesn't make him any less. This doesn't make him any different. She was like, just as long as you listen to him and do what he needs, then he'll be fine. But you just have to, it's just more so once then you know how to proceed and you know what you need to do to help him. But it's just more of like, okay, now that we know, then we know what we need to do. We need to do these type of things, these type of treatments. She like opens up the door to different resources to you. And, again, still devastated or whatever. So wasn't really processing it like the way I should have, because it's a lot to take in when you're just going to your normal session and they drop the autism on your forehead. So I'm, sitting in my car, cried to get in my car. And so he's oblivious. He's just like, yay, playing and everything in the back. So, and I sit there and I think I called my husband and talked to him. And then instantly we went into, it's like, stages of grief. So we instantly went into deny. There's no way he has autism. No way. Can't have autism. So it was maybe like a period of time where I went on to the he can't have autism, the denial bus, where it was like I was trying to prove he didn't have it instead of trying to figure out what was wrong. So we were able, so part of this, we went to a neurologist. A neurologist evaluated him and, was able to do a few things, to kind of see cognitively where he was. He had to have I think it's EEG, where they put the things on his head to like see if he's susceptible to like seizures or anything like that. He was not, so that was good. But when we were evaluated by the neurologist told me, well, he's still young, so we don't, yes, he's showing signs of autism. We don't want to 100% say right now he has it because he's so young, because a lot of these traits he could possibly grow out of. So we really don't want to like say it right now, but like, it's a possibility. But just know that his input is higher than his output, meaning that he can receive information and understand it higher than what he can actually verbalize to you. And because at that point he really still wasn't talking that much, like a little bit, we were getting little bits. So fast forward to I think 4 years old, I went to like getting him into preschool. He wasn't potty trained because communication, like Barry, I'm not sure still trying to figure out how to communicate with him and understand him, and have him, or even know that he's even understanding what I'm trying to tell him, or how to put it in a way that he understands to be able to get anything out of him. So we go to our school district at the time to sign up for preschool, and they do like a small like evaluation, see where his skills are at. And then the facilitator noticed, we do have a program that for him that we think that might benefit him. It's our special education preschool. Love for you to come and kind of sit in on the class to kind of see how it flows and get a feel for it and see if that's something you'd be interested in, because I'm not really sure how he would do in the, mainstream preschool class. I'm like, okay. So we go, we sit, and then, it was pretty much special needs, all type of special needs, children in that particular preschool. So we sat, and it was kind of like controlled chaos for what I can remember. But what the takeaway was is that the kids were engaged. They were, getting things out of it. The teachers always had pretty much a handle on all the students and everything. And there were like teachers, parapros in there. And it was just different from what you would typically see in a preschool, but it's just their approach is different because of the students that they're working with. So we're like, okay, so here's another thing that was thrown at us. So, okay, preschool is only, from what I can remember, the AM preschool was full, but he could go to the PM preschool. Like, okay. So both my husband and I work, so we had to navigate trying to get him to the PM preschool. I think it was 5 days a week. So they said, well, our suggestion is there is a daycare center that's not too far from the school that, a lot of our students go to, and they will bus him here and, bring it, like you can have him go in the AM, so he'll be there in the AM, and then they'll bus him in the PM, and they'll pick him up, they'll pick him up from here and go back to the preschool, and then you pick him up from the preschool. So at this point, he can't talk. He's not potty trained. So, and I'm trusting people I don't know. So I have to trust a group of people at the preschool that I don't know. I have to trust this daycare that I don't know, but never really checked out, and trust that they can get him there and all the things and bring him and all that. So I have to trust in all that. So I'm like, okay. So I met with the daycare folks. Sweetest. It was a couple that owned. It was a husband and wife. Sweetest people ever that owned it. They told them my situation. They were, oh yeah, no problem. We've had a kid like that before here. A few kids here, and there's no problem at all. Don't worry about the potty training. We can work with him on that. And at the preschool, they're also going to work with him on the potty training and everything. So I'm like, okay. So here we are. He's moving forward. He's in the preschool. We got that set up, and seems to be going fairly well. And by the end of the school year, he's able to speak in short phrases. So he had a lot more words by the end of the school year. So we're like, great. So they're like, we have our IEP meeting. So the IEP, if you're not familiar with IEP, it's called the individual educational plan. Please don't at me if I get the initials wrong, but I believe that's what it's called. But basically, what it is you sit down with your school teachers, social workers, usually in there. If there's like speech pathology, if that's part of it. If there's an occupational person at the school, and you sit and figure out the plan, his plan for the year, whatever supports he needs, go through his strengths, go through things he needs to opportunities to work on, and plan out what his school system, what he needs, the ecosystem needs to look like for him in order to be successful at school. So we're sitting there and they said, well, he's done so well. We've actually had him sit in on some of the mainstream preschool classes, and he's done actually okay, like pretty well in there. Seems to like get along with the kids for what we can see. So we think that he is okay to go to mainstream kindergarten. So I'm like, okay, sounds great. Yeah, awesome. So still not even thinking like, okay, just thinking like, okay, well, must not be autism, so he must got it figured out or whatever. So then the next school year we start kindergarten, and we go to elementary school in the district, and I go and I drop him off his first day, all that stuff. And then so every day when I picked him up, I kind of asked the teacher, how's it going? She's like, yeah, he's kind of sitting there in his own world, but, we're trying to get him to, do stuff. I'm like, okay. So, every day it was kind of the same thing. He just kind of sits and plays with crayons. It doesn't really da-da-da. So fast forward to, I want to say this was maybe halfway through the school year. And they said, along the way they were saying like, we got like a parapro to work with him, someone that he's familiar with at the school that he seemed to take a liking to. So we is having her work closely with him. So halfway in the school year, I get a call from the social worker at the school and said, hey, wanted to set up some time to talk with you about James and, figure out, next steps for him and all that. I'm like, okay, not thinking anything of it. So I go in. And I can laugh about this now. I go in and she says, yeah, so, we've been, evaluating James and, trying to try different things and, not really sure this is the best program for him. He has been, anytime we try to get him to do any work, he hits us. It's not funny, but he hits us. So he's hit the parapro, he's hit the teacher, he's hit kids in his class, and this is not something you want to hear. So, I'm like, okay, so he's throwing bows at people, all right. So, and if you ever met him, it was like, him? No, it can't be him. Like, yeah, he did all that. So he's had tantrums. Like, they were all, and this has kind of always been the thing, because he's such a likable kid and so sweet, they tried literally everything at the school to kind of work with him, but they kind of came to the point of like, the program we have at this school, it's not going to fulfill his needs. We do have a program at another school that is perfect for him and can really address his needs and, really support him the way he needs to be supported. We're trying, but we don't have the resources here to do it. So we would recommend that he goes to this other school in the district that can really support him and really help him. We'd like to set up a meeting for you to meet the staff there and talk through things, and we can have the initial meeting to kind of set things up and get to know him and meet everybody. But are you okay with that? And I'm like, again, crying. So yeah, it sounds good. They was like, don't feel bad. We kind of felt bad because we didn't want to do a disservice to him, because we care about him so much and we've grown to like him. We've literally been trying everything to see what we can do to kind of help him here, but we're just not set up to help him like we need to help him. But we feel that this program really will help him. So we want to make sure we set him up for success. So great. So we go to the new school, we meet everyone. It's basically, they have within the district, they have designated schools that have like a autism program where it's like a particular wing of the school. It's a quieter part of the school, and they have like a resource room, and they have, if you're not familiar with resource room, it's more of like a basically like a room where it's a lot of different sensory things where it can kind of calm kids down if they're having a tough day of meltdowns or anything like that. They can, they have smaller classrooms, so they can really be one-on-one with the kids, and they can really focus on those like skill sets that they need to kind of help them, develop. So met, liked everything I saw, met, loved everybody that I saw, met, been great. So he started there, and things were looking great. Like he was doing well in the school district, and so that was kindergarten. So he was in that same school district up until he was in 10th grade. But just going back for a minute, you get to a point in this journey as an autism parent where it doesn't feel like it at the beginning, but you do get to a point where the autism very well. You're like the master of autism. You've crafted your autism skills. You've become an autism whisperer. You've got it locked. I know this is going to trigger him. I know that, this, that, the other. I know I had to cut this. I had to cut the tags out the shirts. I know all the stuff. Then you get to puberty. And things get a little weird. Like you get a little curveball there. So I want to say maybe beginning of 5th grade, things got a little weird because of the puberty stuff. So I had to actually work with his team at the school to figure out how do we navigate puberty, because it's part the hormonal things. He doesn't know how to handle hormonal changes, so he's acting out, which when he didn't before, ways he didn't before. Things are happening to his body he don't know, like just trying to make him appropriate. So I'm trying to get too graphic, but just trying to understand that. So we just developed a plan. We developed a plan to kind of explain to him in ways he could understand what was happening to him, and what was appropriate, what was not appropriate, and just kind of navigating through that. So was able to kind of get through that curveball. We got to middle school, and I would say middle school, he did fairly well in middle school. It was the same program at the middle school that we had at the elementary school level too. Did very well, had a very supportive team, was able to go to all the dances and all that. He was really integrated in the school, not kept off to the side or anything like that, but really just integrated everything. Went to, like I said, all the dances. He was real, as social as he wanted to be. He loves to dance and he loves music. So that was right up his alley to go to all of those. So, so did very well. Go to high school. We're in the same school district, and it's the same program now at the high school level. And so what I was noticing is that 9th grade, 10th grade, and this was COVID time, so that was also thrown in the mix. I want to say COVID was end of 9th grade, if I'm not mistaken. And I just felt, this was before COVID, I felt that the teacher was nice. I felt I had to be just on top of the teacher. You know what I mean? So it's I had to really, really just super duper advocate for him. For example, it was a situation where James had gym class in high school, and one of the units in gym was swimming. Now, if you know James, he loves to swim. It's one of his favorite things to do. And so he missed it because because he was within the autism program. Some of the other kids in the program were scared of the water, but they just lumped him in with them, the other kids, and said, well, they don't go swimming. So he missed this whole unit in swimming. So I happened to notice that because I saw an email from that gym teacher, that basically a mass email to all parents saying, oh, okay, we finished our swim unit. I'm like, whoa, I never sent any swim trunks to school. What are you talking about? So I let his teacher know, hey, he likes to swim. But then on the other side of that, so now as we're teenagers, we're in high school, I've always been his advocate for all these years. So now I'm trying to push the advocacy off onto him, to explain to James, you need to advocate for yourself. You sat and watched all these kids swim for 2 weeks or however long it was. You never said, I like to swim or anything like that. So they felt bad because when I explained, like, he really does like to swim, like, so, so they felt bad. So they had me send swim trunks, and for his like daily break, he would go swimming every day. So I want to say 2 years at that high school was kind of like, yeah, it was not really. He was just he was just going through the motions. He wasn't challenged. I always tell any teacher that he has, yeah, you challenge him. He's sweet, but don't let that fool you. There's things he can do, and he's going to show you. And once you start to learn that, then don't let him get okie doke. Push him, challenge him, be tough on him, because that's what he gets at home. He doesn't get like coddled like that at home. Like, we challenge him, we push him, because we do that so that he can be challenged like any other kid and be able to do great things. Part of me challenging him is, when he was in elementary school, James was learning how to wash clothes. James learned how to do dishes. James learned how to clean. And now he's at this point in life, he's really good at those skills. He just does them automatically. That's just part of his routine. That's like we always say, like, in their brain, they have like a file cabinet, and that's a file folder in his file cabinet. It's just automatic. So it's just a thing he does. So, I always tell any teacher that I meet, like, yeah, you give him the business. It's all right, So, and if he's acting up in class, what do you do with neurotypical kids that act up in class? Okay, well, he knows, because going back to what that neurologist said, his input is higher than his output. So if he does something that's wrong or not good, or he's being bad, and if I say to him, do you know what you did wrong? He can tell me I know what I did, exactly what did wrong. So, okay, well, then you're on punishment. So, right? So that's how it works. This is, again, my experience, but everyone's autism is different. You're going to learn your child or the person you care about's autism and understand how to cope with them. Like, there's no one solution for everything. Again, my experience. So after 10th grade, we ended up moving to another city, so another school district, and we went to a new school district, which is where we're at now. And it was like just night and day. Like, they welcomed us with open arms from the beginning. They basically said, like, hey, he's in 11th grade. He can go to homecoming dance. He can go to homecoming game. We have support there for him. He can do it pretty much wherever he wants. We have a basketball team that he can join. It's a unified basketball team where they play other schools. So he did that for 2 years. When he was a senior, he went to prom. He did all the senior stuff as much as we could. So those last 2 years were amazing at that new high school, and the staff was really great, and he was able to really gain some good skills. So here we are today in adult transition land. So because of his cognitive abilities or cognitive issues, and I want to be able to protect him. So I want to be able to help protect him with any medical decisions, financial decisions like that. So we applied for guardianship, and we were awarded guardianship towards the end of last year. And it is the goal right now is to get him to a point where he's able to live independent. Not sure if it'll ever happen, but that's the goal, is to have him be able to live independent even if he still lives with us. Because if there's a situation where we want him to be by himself, he's okay to be by himself. Or if he ever gets to a point where he feels he can live by himself, I want him to have that option. But I'm his guardian. If anything comes up from a medical standpoint and financial standpoint, I'm here to support him and make sure he's not taken advantage of. So that's where we're at from the adult standpoint. I told you about the program he's in for school. Still trying to figure out job situation. Part of adult transition recommended that we apply for SSI in the meantime because while he doesn't have an income, so any program that he's in, so we want him to work and have employment and all that. So he goes to school in the hopes to be able to gain employment because he's getting trained for that. but I also want him to have fun. So like, as you know, yes, adults, we work, but we also have fun. So I just wanted him to be able to have social time and be able to have hobbies. So I made a list of, I'm actually looking at the list on my board, a list of different activities. And I said, okay, James, circle everything you're interested in. So he circled bowling, social clubs, art, and swimming. So I was able to find a social bowling club for him. So he does that. And then he also does swim classes, but neither of those are cheap because he's an adult. So these aren't kid prices anymore. So those are an expense that I gladly pay a month, but it would be nice if he had some income to help support that. So we're just working through that. What else? It's basically just kind of a wait and see situation right now. And just going with the flow, celebrating small wins. You always want to do that as you go through this journey. It is a journey. I did a very condensed version in like 35 minutes of our story, but if there are any specific questions you have about our experiences, or anything you want to see on here, just let me know. But like I said, I'm starting off slow, just ramping up, but wanted to kind of give my introduction and share what we've went through so far, and basically what I hope this becomes for everyone. Just wanted to be, what I've always found is it's really hard to find information sometimes. I'm like a Googling maniac. I would like see something and I'll have an idea that sparks me. Oh, let me Google that. So that's kind of been a lot of like how I found things, or like resources, or just trying to try different things. That's the other thing, is that over the years we've just tried things to see what happens, and sometimes it's a disaster, and sometimes it turns out great. So I have a lot of those stories. I think I might just bring in like one-off stories about things that we've tried and then like what happened. It's all hilarious now, but at the time it wasn't maybe so hilarious. It's more like, oh my God, somebody help me. But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to give that intro, show my little video, show my face. But yeah, you let me know what you want to see and what you're interested in, and I will make sure I'm able to provide that as a resource to you. And till then, you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon.